Yes, he should expect sex regularly. There are certain expectations of you.
A man says that if his significant other expects him to pay all the bills, he expects sex regularly, even if she's not in the mood. He reasons that sometimes he's not in the mood to pay the bills. Is he out of line? Explain. Boy. Haven't we had this conversation already about other people having conversations about this?
That's all right. Sure, we'll go with it. This is gonna sound really bad. It's probably gonna seem like it's mildly off brand.
Okay.
But yes.
Okay.
Yes, he should. Yes, he should expect sex regularly. Now, again, mind you, I'm answering this under the umbrella that the guy and the girl in this situation are in fact married. Thus, if you're in that type of relationship and the husband, and I'll even switch it around and say if the wife is handling, either person is handling the financial load, they are to a degree entitled to have certain expectations, right?
Okay.
Now, I don't necessarily subscribe to the mindset of if then, for it to be necessarily like transactional in the sense, like I'm doing this and therefore my compensation or my reward for XYZ. I don't necessarily look at it in that regard, but realistically, it's just like with a job, you go to your job, you perform certain tasks. There are certain expectations of you to perform a certain task, or a certain set of tasks a certain way with a certain level of precision, et cetera, et cetera. And then on the flip side, you as the employee, you then you have a certain level of expectation from your management, from company owner, from the company as an entity to provide certain things. One being, my just regular compensation, opportunity for advancement in the company, vacation time, all of these things you expect to be respected and viewed as a valued member of the company. Like all of these things are a part of the deal of I am lending this thing to you, right? And so I don't believe that the husband should, okay, I'm going to work, I'm paying all the bills, I'm making sure the lights stay on, I'm making sure there's food on the table, I'm making sure XYZ 1, 2, 3, and then when I then say, hey, I need this thing from you, then it's just like, nah, I ain't with it. Like, to me, that's selfish.
The part about this that gets me is even if she's not in the mood, because it does sound transactional at that point. It sounds transactional because it's not the only thing that either of them, and I would say if she's a stay-at-home wife or a stay-at-home mom, are you just expecting her to give you sex at any time, whether she's in the mood or not? So is it that I'm just staying at the house and just waiting for you to get home, you pay all the bills, and then boom, we have sex, and that's all I'm supposed to be doing? Because in a lot of conversations of this, the one guy that was just like, what does a woman bring to the table other than sex? So in this question, we can apply it here. What are you bringing to the table other than money to pay the bills? Because a stay-at-home mom, a stay-at-home wife is doing a lot of other things. So if you say, even if she doesn't feel in the mood, not realistically, bruh, I done just had to fight all your children. You know what I'm saying? I done just had to clean up behind all your children. I done had to make sure I'm doing X, Y, and Z. If you're doing other businesses or, entrepreneurships or all of that stuff, I'm doing all of those things. Yes, stressful at work to deal with all the stuff and then come home and pay bills, which usually, especially like in our case, you pay majority of the bills as far as like going online and clicking stuff and making sure everything is auto drafted and all that stuff.
Right.
But there have been times where I'm like, oh, this needs to be paid.
Right.
Oh, we got to pay these medical bills. How can we pay this without paying out of our pocket?
Right.
And it's just like, wait, we have an HSA.
Yeah, and I think you asked me about like the insurance stuff, and then
So therefore, there's a lot of things that are going on to make the partnership and life together work. To say, well, if I pay all the bills, I need to have sex whenever I say I want to have sex, and it's just like, regardless of what I've had to deal with throughout the day.
So here's the thing. For me, when I look at things like this, I look at it in two facets, right? I look at it in a vacuum, and then you expand it to add additional pieces, right? And so I say that to say, if you look at it in a vacuum, the question does not say anything about children, does not say anything about all of those things, and so we're looking strictly. So you have to first analyze strictly by
the question that's been asked,
right? And then you add the other pieces. So doing that, yes, that's, for lack of better terms, owed, right? Now, when you take it outside of the vacuum of, okay, the only things that are on the table is work and sex, and it's owed, then you say, okay, that's where the consideration of what the other person had to deal with, what the other person is going through, but in that same vein of, I had to deal with the kids, and I had to do this, and I had to cook, and I had to do, and it's just like, okay, well, cool. In my day of work, I had to deal with traffic, and I had to deal with the boss yelling down my throat, and I had to deal with, the higher ups saying that I did X, Y, Z. I had to deal with the conversations of, if you don't get it done, then you're going to be like, I had to deal with all of those things, all of those, as well as the stressors, the mental stressors of what happens if I don't perform this way because my income is this. If this doesn't work, then now I have to make X, Y, Z other moves, and so you have those additional stressors also.
Okay.
And so for every stressor that you can imply on, in this instance, the wife's end, saying you need to consider this, it shouldn't be regardless of my mood. You can add one to the husband side saying, yeah, but I have additional thing. You should grant me this, whether you feel like it or not. And that's why I say there's a level of consideration that needs to happen on both ends. But in this particular questioning, in this particular example, there should be more consideration yielded on the wife's side because the husband is taking up the mantle of making sure the livelihood is sustained.
But I just think it's really, because just thinking about the guy's question of what do women bring to the table other than sex, and it leads me back, and we've had this conversation, it just leads me back to my original response to him asking that question. I don't think he necessarily thinks women can
do anything other than
you're regardless of what you do.
Right, and that's why,
because he didn't even factor in women having their own jobs, and he blanketly said, what do women bring to the table other than having sex?
Right. That's why I said, to answer the question, you look at it in a vacuum, and in this particular instance, because in this instance, the woman having a job isn't a factor.
Right.
And this,
okay. So she's, again, stay at home wife. Period.
Right.
Again, like I said at the beginning, I'm literally just sitting at home waiting for you to get home and asking for you to say, let's have sex. Because then, and again, this is a part of our debate, not just the question, but then it's just like, well, she doesn't cook, she don't clean. Based on this question, in the vacuum, you just wanted sex whenever you want it. So you don't get none of the other stuff. You don't even get me supporting you. Like,
again, that's why I said you answer the question in a vacuum, and then you can start applying all the other things, because, and this is why I said I'm looking at it in terms of, because I didn't read the card, I'm looking at it in terms of wife and husband. If it is husband and wife, then it is implied that other things are being handled. Like it's implied that you're not just like I'm
just waiting for my husband.
Oh, penis. Like that's implied. Oh, whatever. We're adults, but I'm just saying, like, that's implied that that's not the case,
Gotcha.
right? And that's why I said for every other stressor, you can, there can be a +1 stressor on either side.